Veterans called one of these movies a recruiting poster wrapped in explosions. Another got ripped apart for turning real soldiers into cartoon characters. Michael Bay basically made a video game out of Pearl Harbor, and one director got told to his face that his war movie was pure Hollywood garbage. These films claim to honor the troops, but the people who actually served saw right through them. These are 11 war movies veterans absolutely hated. Number 11, Pearl Harbor. Michael Bay took one of the most devastating attacks in American history and turned it into a love triangle with some explosions tossed in for good measure. The movie cost $140 million to make, pulled in $450 million worldwide, and veterans hated every minute of it. The setup is ridiculous. Two best friends both fall for the same nurse, then Pearl Harbor gets bombed, and somehow the love story is supposed to matter just as much as the actual attack. Bay spent more time on Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett making puppy eyes at Kate Beckinsale than he did on the 2,400 Americans who died that day. Real Pearl Harbor survivors were brutal about this one. When the film premiered in Hawaii, some vets walked out. Others stayed just to tear it apart afterward. Bob Kinsler, who survived the USS Arizona, said the movie was all Hollywood and no history. He pointed out that the attack lasted less than 2 hours, but Bay stretched it into a 3-hour melodrama where the actual battle felt like an afterthought. The tactics are wrong, the timeline is a mess, and the Doolittle raid sequence at the end feels tacked on just to give the movie a hero moment. Historians backed the veterans up on this. Michael Bay himself later admitted he probably should have focused more on the real stories, instead of inventing a fictional romance nobody asked for. Even the technical details drove veterans crazy. Planes that were never at Pearl Harbor suddenly show up in the attack. Explosions go off in ways that make zero sense. Ships sink in the wrong order. It is like Bay took a history book, skimmed the chapter titles, and then just made up the rest. And here is the kicker. Despite all the criticism from actual veterans and historians, Pearl Harbor still made a fortune and got 4 Academy Award nominations. It even won 1 for Best Sound Editing. Jerry Bruckheimer defended it, saying they were making a movie for audiences, not a documentary. But for the people who lived through December 7th, 1941, that excuse did not fly. They wanted respect, not a romance. Number 10, American Sniper.
Do you ever think that
Clint Eastwood directed this one, and it made over $500 million worldwide. But veterans were split right down the middle. Some loved it, others absolutely despised it. The movie tells the story of Chris Kyle, a Navy SEAL sniper credited with 160 confirmed kills during the Iraq War. Bradley Cooper put on 40 pounds of muscle for the role, trained with actual SEALs, and gave one of his best performances. But that did not stop veterans from tearing the film apart. The biggest complaint? The movie turned Chris Kyle into a one-dimensional hero and completely ignored the darker, more complicated parts of his story. In his autobiography, Kyle bragged about killing looters in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina and claimed he punched out Jesse Ventura in a bar. Both stories were later debunked, and Ventura even sued Kyle's estate for defamation and won. But the movie skips all of that. It paints Kyle as this tragic, tortured patriot haunted by war, when in reality, he said in interviews that he loved killing and had no regrets. Veterans who served with him said the real Kyle was way more complex, sometimes darker, and the film sanitized him into something he was not. Then there is the fake baby. Yeah, that scene where Bradley Cooper is holding his newborn daughter, and it is obviously a plastic doll. Veterans noticed. Everyone noticed. It became a meme. Eastwood later said, the real baby got sick and they had to use a prop. But it is hard to take a serious war movie seriously when the main character is cradling a rubber toy. The combat scenes also frustrated veterans. The tactics look good on screen, but guys who actually served in Iraq said the scenarios were exaggerated or just flat out wrong. The rooftop sniper duels, the way the SEALs move through buildings, even the way Kyle talks to his wife on the phone during missions, none of it lined up with how things actually worked over there. And then there is the politics. The film came out in 2014, right when the country was still arguing about the Iraq War. Some veterans saw it as pro-war propaganda, others saw it as an honest tribute, but almost everyone agreed on one thing. It was not the full story, and it definitely was not the real Chris Kyle. Number 9. Act of Valor. This one is unique because it does not star actors. It stars actual active duty Navy SEALs. The directors wanted authenticity, so they cast real operators using live ammunition in some scenes, and actual military tactics throughout. On paper, that sounds like the most realistic war movie ever made. In reality, veterans hated it. The problem is simple. Real SEALs are great at being SEALs. They are terrible at acting. The dialogue is stiff, the performances are wooden, and every emotional scene feels like a high school play. You can tell these guys are reading lines, not living them. And for a movie that was supposed to honor the SEAL community, it ended up feeling like a 2-hour recruitment commercial. The plot is paper thin. A group of SEALs has to stop a terrorist plot involving suicide vests and smuggled explosives. There are firefights, boat chases, and helicopter insertions, but none of it matters because you do not care about any of the characters. They are not characters. They are just guys in tactical gear shooting at bad guys. Veterans, especially those outside the SEAL community, ripped this movie apart. They said it felt like propaganda, designed to make the Navy look good and boost enlistment numbers. And honestly, they were not wrong. The Department of Defense gave the filmmakers full access to equipment, locations, and personnel. That kind of cooperation does not come free. The movie even premiered on a military base before it hit theaters. The action scenes are solid. The tactics are mostly accurate. The gear is real. But the story is non-existent, and the performances are so bad that it is hard to stay invested. One Marine veteran called it the most boring war movie he had ever seen, which is saying something for a film with this many explosions. Box office-wise, it did okay. Made $70 million on a $12 million budget, but critically, it got destroyed, and among veterans, it became a punchline. A movie made by real SEALs that somehow felt faker than anything Hollywood had ever put out. Number 8. Windtalkers. John Woo wanted to honor the Navajo code talkers of World War II, the Marines who used their native language to create an unbreakable code that helped win the Pacific War. Instead, he made a movie where Nicolas Cage gets more screen time than the actual Navajo soldiers, and the story becomes less about their contributions and more about a white guy's guilt. The movie cost $70 million to make and only brought in $77 million worldwide, which in Hollywood math means it lost money. And veterans, especially Navajo veterans, were furious. They felt like their story got hijacked and turned into a generic action movie with a white savior narrative. The premise is this: Nicolas Cage plays a Marine assigned to protect a Navajo code talker, but his orders are clear. If the code talker is about to be captured, Cage has to kill him to protect the code. That is a real part of history. The problem is, the movie focuses almost entirely on Cage's emotional struggle with that order, not on the Navajo Marines who were actually doing the work. Woo filled the film with slow-motion shootouts, massive explosions, and over-the-top violence. It looks like a John Woo movie, but it does not feel like a war movie, and it definitely does not feel like a tribute. Veterans said the combat scenes were cartoonish, the tactics were wrong, and the emotional weight of the story got buried under all the action. The Navajo code talkers themselves were disappointed. They wanted a film that showed their intelligence, their bravery, and their unique contribution to the war. What they got was a film where they felt like props in someone else's story. Even the actors playing the code talkers admitted the script did not give them much to work with. And here is the frustrating part. This is still the only major Hollywood film about the Navajo code talkers. So even though veterans hate it, it is the only version of that story most people will ever see. Number 7. The Hurt Locker.
Oh, they changed that about a week ago. Victory sound better. All right.
Catherine Bigelow won the Best Director Oscar for this one. The movie won Best Picture. Critics loved it. And Iraq War veterans absolutely despised it. The Hurt Locker tells the story of an Army explosive ordnance disposal team in Iraq, focusing on a reckless bomb technician, played by Jeremy Renner, who seems addicted to the adrenaline rush of defusing IEDs. Or the problem? Almost nothing in this movie is accurate. Veterans tore it apart from the opening scene. The tactics are wrong, the procedures are wrong, the gear is wrong, the way the characters act is wrong. One EOD veteran said, "Watching this movie was like watching a firefighter run into a burning building wearing a swimsuit. It just does not happen." The biggest issue is Jeremy Renner's character. He is portrayed as this lone wolf cowboy who ignores orders, goes off on his own, and takes insane risks just for the thrill of it. Real EOD techs said that kind of behavior would get you kicked off the team immediately, if not court-martialed. You do not defuse bombs for fun. You do it because it is your job, and you follow strict protocols because one mistake kills you and everyone around you. Then there is the scene where Renner's team gets into a sniper duel in the middle of the desert. EOD techs do not do that. They are not infantrymen. If they run into enemy contact, they call for backup and get out. But in the movie, they stay and fight for what feels like 20 minutes, and it makes zero sense. Veterans also hated how the film portrayed soldiers as either adrenaline junkies or broken PTSD cases. There is no middle ground. According to the Hurt Locker, you either love war or it destroys you. Real soldiers said that is a lazy, insulting oversimplification of what serving in a combat zone is actually like. Paul Riehoff, founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, called it a piece of fiction. He said it was one of the worst war movies he had ever seen in terms of accuracy. And when the film won Best Picture, beating out Avatar, veterans were furious that Hollywood rewarded a movie that got so much wrong about their service. Number 6, Lone Survivor.
Take the shot!
Peter Berg adapted Marcus Luttrell's memoir about Operation Red Wings, the disastrous Navy SEAL mission in Afghanistan that left 19 Americans dead. Mark Wahlberg plays Luttrell, the sole survivor, and the movie does not hold back on the violence. This thing is brutal. 2 hours of SEALs getting shot, falling down mountains, and fighting for their lives. Veterans had mixed reactions, but the ones who hated it really hated it. Their biggest problem was not the action, it was the way the film handled the goat herders. Early in the mission, Luttrell's team stumbles upon 3 Afghan civilians. They debate whether to kill them or let them go, knowing if they release them, the Taliban will find out. In the movie, they let them go because it is the right thing to do, and that decision gets most of the team killed. But according to multiple sources, including other SEALs who studied the mission, that is not what happened. The real debate was not about morality, it was about practicality. They did not have rope to tie the herders up, and they could not drag 3 prisoners through the mountains while running from the Taliban. Some veterans said the film turned a tactical decision into a moral dilemma to make the story more dramatic, and that pissed them off. Then there is the numbers game. The movie claims the SEAL team was fighting off over 100 Taliban fighters. Luttrell said in his book it was closer to 200, but the official after-action reports put the number somewhere between 30 and 40. The difference matters. Fighting off 200 enemy combatants sounds heroic. Fighting off 30 sounds like a mission that went wrong because of bad intelligence and poor planning. The combat scenes also frustrated veterans. The SEALs in the film take an insane amount of damage, falling off cliffs, tumbling hundreds of feet down rocky slopes, and somehow still fighting. It looks incredible on screen, but veterans said it crossed the line from realistic into superhero territory. Real soldiers do not bounce back from that kind of punishment. And there is the controversy around the actual mission itself. Some veterans questioned why Operation Red Wings was greenlighted in the first place. 4 SEALs inserted into Taliban territory with no quick reaction force nearby and limited communication. The mission planning was flawed from the start, but the movie does not dig into that. It just shows the horror of what happened without asking why it happened. Berg and Wahlberg defended the film. Luttrell stood by it too. But for veterans who knew the real story, Lone Survivor felt like a heroic retelling of a mission that should have been examined more critically. Number 5. Jarhead.
Yellow or red?
You are now green!
Sam Mendes directed this adaptation of Anthony Swofford's memoir about his time as a Marine sniper during the Gulf War. The movie stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Jamie Foxx, and Peter Sarsgaard, and it is not your typical war film. There are no big battles, no heroic last stands, just a lot of waiting, boredom, and Marines slowly losing their minds in the desert. And that is exactly why some veterans hated it. They felt like the movie made Marines look like idiots. The characters spend the entire film doing nothing. They train, they wait, they masturbate, they almost get to shoot someone, and then they go home. For Marines who served in Desert Storm and actually saw combat, this felt like an insult. Swofford wrote the book as a critique of military culture and the psychological toll of being trained to kill but never getting the chance. The movie tries to capture that same frustration, but it leans so hard into the absurdity and dysfunction that some veterans felt it crossed the line. One Marine veteran said, "Watching Jarhead felt like someone took the worst parts of boot camp and deployment and pretended that was the whole experience." The infamous scene where the Marines watch Apocalypse Now and cheer during the helicopter attack also rubbed veterans the wrong way. It is meant to show how desensitized they have become, but some Marines said it made them look like psychopaths who glorify violence. Real Marines pointed out that, yeah, they watched movies on deployment, but they were not sitting around worshiping war films like cult members. Then there is the accuracy issue. Some Gulf War veterans said the film got the details right. The gear, the boredom, the heat, the oil fires, all of it felt authentic. But others said Swofford's experience was not representative of what most Marines went through. Plenty of Marines saw combat during Desert Storm. Swofford did not, and the movie makes it seem like nobody did. The film also sparked debate about what a war movie should be. Does it need combat to be valid? Can a war movie just be about the experience of waiting for war? Critics loved Jarhead for subverting expectations. Veterans were split. Some appreciated the honesty. Others felt like it was just 2 hours of complaining. Box office-wise, it did okay. Made $62 million on a $72 million budget. Not a disaster, but not a hit either. And among veterans, it remains one of the most divisive war films ever made. Number 4. Green Zone.
Listen, this is a disaster. It is a disaster. They haven't secured dick. I don't think we should go in yet.
Paul Greengrass reunited with Matt Damon after the Bourne movies to make a war thriller about the hunt for weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. The movie is fast, intense, and packed with Greengrass's signature shaky cam action. It also takes a very clear political stance. The WMDs do not exist. The intelligence was bad, and the whole war was built on lies. Veterans hated it. Not because the politics were wrong, but because the movie felt like a lecture disguised as an action film. Damon plays Chief Warrant Officer Roy Miller, leading a team searching for WMD sites. When every site turns up empty, he starts digging into why the intelligence is so bad and uncovers a conspiracy involving the CIA and the Pentagon. The problem is, the film plays fast and loose with how the military actually works. Miller is a warrant officer, but he acts like a rogue detective, confronting generals, ignoring orders, and running solo missions across Baghdad. Real soldiers said that is not how the chain of command works. You do not just decide your orders are wrong and go investigate a conspiracy on your own. The action scenes also frustrated veterans. Greengrass shot everything handheld, so the combat is chaotic and hard to follow. Some veterans appreciated that because real combat is chaotic. Others said it just looked like the camera operator was having a seizure. You can barely tell who is shooting at who half the time. Then there is the portrayal of the Iraq War itself. The movie reduces the entire conflict to a simple narrative: bad intelligence, evil government officials, and soldiers caught in the middle. Veterans who served multiple tours in Iraq said the reality was way more complicated than that. The film oversimplifies everything to make its political point, and in doing so, it erases the nuance of what actually happened over there. The Iraqi characters in the film also drew criticism. They are either victims or informants, but none of them feel like real people. They exist to help Matt Damon's character crack the case, and that is it. Veterans who worked with Iraqi forces said the film completely ignores the role Iraqis played in their own country's future. The Green Zone bombed hard, cost $100 million to make, only pulled in $94 million worldwide. Critics were mixed. The audience did not care. and veterans walked away feeling like Greengrass used the Iraq War as a backdrop for a generic conspiracy thriller that did not respect the people who actually served there. Number 3. Tears of the Sun. Bruce Willis plays a Navy SEAL team leader sent into Nigeria to extract an American doctor from a war zone. The mission is simple: get in, grab her, get out. But when Willis sees the atrocities happening to the local villagers, he disobeys orders and decides to escort dozens of refugees through enemy territory to the Cameroon border. The movie tries to be a serious commentary on humanitarian intervention and the moral responsibility of soldiers. What it actually is a white savior fantasy with Navy SEALs gunning down African militias for 2 hours. Veterans, especially those who served in Africa, tore this thing apart. The tactics are terrible. The SEALs move through the jungle like they are on a Sunday hike. No noise discipline, no proper spacing, and they somehow stay hidden from an entire rebel army despite escorting 70 refugees. Real SEALs said the mission would have been blown in the first 10 minutes. Then there is the premise itself. A SEAL team would never be sent on a rescue mission like this. That is not what SEALs do. You would send Marines, Army, or contracted security. And even if you did send SEALs, they would never disobey a direct order to extract and instead decide to save a bunch of civilians on their own. That is a court-martial waiting to happen. The film also portrays African militias as mindless savage killing machines with no motivation beyond violence. There is zero political context, no explanation of why the Civil War is happening, just bad guys doing bad things, so Bruce Willis can shoot them. Veterans who served in Africa said it was a lazy, borderline racist portrayal that ignored the complicated realities of conflict on the continent. The worst part is the ending. After escorting the refugees through impossible odds, the SEALs call in an airstrike that wipes out the entire rebel army in about 30 seconds. It is meant to be this triumphant moment, but it just raises the question, if they could call in air support the whole time, why did they not do it earlier and avoid all the drama? Antoine Fuqua directed this right after Training Day, and you can tell he wanted to make something serious and important. But the script, written by Alex Lasker and Patrick Cirillo, is pure Hollywood nonsense. Veterans called it propaganda wrapped in fake morality, and they were not wrong. Number 2, We Were Soldiers. Mel Gibson stars in this adaptation of the book We Were Soldiers. Once and young, about the Battle of Le Drang, the first major engagement between US and North Vietnamese forces. The movie tries to be a respectful, balanced portrayal of both sides, showing the bravery and sacrifice of American soldiers while also giving screen time to the Vietnamese commanders. And yet, Vietnam veterans still hated it. Not all of them, but enough to make it controversial. Their biggest complaints was that the film sanitized the war. It turned a brutal, chaotic, and morally complicated conflict into a straightforward good versus evil story, where brave Americans fight honorably and go home to their families. The battle itself is intense, the combat scenes are well shot, the tactics look mostly accurate, and Randall Wallace, the director, clearly did his research. But veterans said the movie ignored the larger context of Vietnam. It does not ask why American soldiers were in Vietnam in the first place. It does not deal with the lies that got them there. It just shows them fighting bravely and dying heroically. There is also the issue of Mel Gibson's character, Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. The real Moore was a respected leader, and by all accounts, the film portrays him accurately. But Gibson plays him like a saint. He is calm, wise, always knows the right thing to say, and never makes a bad call. Real soldiers do not work like that. Real commanders make mistakes, especially in their first major battle. The home front scenes also frustrated veterans. The movie cuts back and forth between the battle and the wives back home receiving death notifications. It is meant to add emotional weight, but some veterans felt like it was manipulative. The battle was horrifying enough. You did not need to keep reminding the audience that these guys had families. Then there is the North Vietnamese portrayal. The film tries to be respectful, showing their perspective and their own struggles. But at the end of the day, they are still just the enemy. They get a few humanizing moments, then they get mowed down by American firepower. Vietnamese veterans and historians said the film still felt like American propaganda, just with better PR. We Were Soldiers made $114 million on a $75 million budget, so it was a financial success. But among Vietnam veterans, it remains divisive. Some appreciated the effort to honor their service. Others felt like it was just another Hollywood war movie that did not understand what Vietnam was really about. Number 1. Top Gun.
Here comes another one!
Yeah, it is not technically a war movie. There is no war. But it is a military movie, and veterans have spent decades ripping it apart. Tom Cruise plays Maverick, a hotshot fighter pilot who breaks all the rules, pisses off his instructors, and still ends up being the best of the best. It is slick, it is loud, and it is pure 80s propaganda. The Navy loved it. Recruitment went through the roof after Top Gun came out. They set up recruiting booths outside theaters. It worked. But actual Navy pilots and veterans could not stand it. They said the film turned fighter aviation into a joke, made pilots look like reckless cowboys, and got almost every detail about how the Navy actually operates completely wrong. The tactics are nonsense. The dogfights look cool, but they are not how real air combat works. Pilots do not fly that close to each other. They do not have time for banter during engagements. And they definitely do not buzz the tower just to show off. That is a quick way to end your career, not become a legend. Then there is Maverick's character. He is constantly disobeying orders, endangering his teammates, and showboating. In the real Navy, that gets you grounded or kicked out. But in Top Gun, it makes him a hero. Veterans said the film sent a dangerous message that being a good pilot means ignoring authority and doing whatever you want. The rivalry with Iceman, played by Val Kilmer, also annoyed veterans. The film portrays Iceman as the by-the-book boring pilot, while Maverick is the instinctive genius. Real pilots said that is backwards. The best pilots are disciplined, methodical, and follow procedures. Flying on instinct gets people killed, and do not even get started on the volleyball scene. Veterans still make fun of that one. It has nothing to do with military life. It is just an excuse to get shirtless guys playing sports in slow motion. Tony Scott knew exactly what he was doing, and it worked, but it is pure cheese. Despite all the criticism, Top Gun became a cultural phenomenon. It made $357 million, launched Tom Cruise into superstardom, and became one of the most iconic movies of the 80s. The sequel, Top Gun Maverick, came out in 2022 and made over $1 billion. Veterans still hate the original, but they admit the sequel actually got it right. Studios kept making war movies for audiences who never served, and veterans kept calling them out. Some films got close to the truth, most did not, and Hollywood just kept cashing the checks.